Hello and welcome to another episode of The Framework of Tomorrow. This is episode 30. I'm your host, Keegan Goldfarb, and today I am going to be talking about the history of me and how I kind of want to move forward in this podcast. Before I get started today, I want to talk about my sponsor, not only on The Framework of Tomorrow, but also in the network I am in, Rally Network. You can check us out at rallynetwork.net. We're an amazing group of podcasters. We're having a couple more podcasters actually come into it. Our sponsor is Ashley Luann K. If you're pursuing a higher education or want insight on life as a nurse, go and check out Ashley Luann K at the Minnesota Nurse on Instagram. She is currently doing a $100 giveaway, and all you have to do, it's super easy. You just have to follow everyone in the Rally Network, like their Instagrams, and I think it's like one entry per follow, and maybe that's how it works. I don't know, but I love how I don't even know how it works. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So yes, definitely go and check that out. So today I kind of want to talk about the history of myself. I kind of want to talk about myself today. I know it's a little self-centered. That's not why you listen to this podcast. Who listens to this podcast because of me? No one does. I'm just kidding. But I kind of want to talk about how I kind of want to move forward in this podcast, and yeah. So first and foremost, I want to talk about something I was brought to light about 4 episodes ago. The political unrest episode I had. I took a viewpoint, a non-neutral viewpoint. I kind of shared my political opinion, which moving forward, I don't really want to do that. It's not necessarily bad because this is my podcast and I can do that. Like there's nothing bad about me doing that, but moving forward, I kind of don't want to do that. I want to take a neutral position on everything. And yeah, I kind of want to do that. One of the things that happened during that episode, which I'm a little embarrassed about, one of the random history facts during that episode was that I was surprised that Martin Luther King, I didn't realize he had a doctorate in theology. I believe that's what it was. It was a certain kind of theology. I couldn't remember what it was, but I'm a little embarrassed because it did sound like. And maybe during the moment, I actually completely forgot about the fact that he was a doctor. I wasn't surprised because he was a doctor. I was surprised at the doctorate he got. I guess I didn't realize that he got a doctorate in theology. I guess in the back of my mind, I knew he was because people call him Dr. King. And obviously, it definitely came across that way. And I'm a little embarrassed about it, but that's all right. That's how it works. I'm human. I'm gonna make mistakes. That's how it is. But thank you so much. Actually, at Donaram, go check them out. They're amazing podcasts. They're in the network. They pointed that out to me, and thank you so much for pointing that out to me. And yeah, go and check them out. Donaram is a amazing podcast who talks about some video games from their childhood and some video games that are coming out today, and their opinions on that. And it's a very insightful podcast. There's some stuff on their podcast I didn't even know about, and it's amazing. Go and check them out. I really enjoy their main host, Bo. He's awesome. And then I talked to some of their people from behind the scenes as well. The whole Donaram crew is amazing. Go and check them out. So yeah, I want to talk about history of me first. So let's go through the history of me. So I was born not normally. I almost died when I was born. My mom when she was pregnant with me, she had a condition called placenta previa, and that condition made some complications in the pregnancy. And I was actually born, my due date was like July 13th, and I was actually born May 20th. So that's like, I think it was like 7 weeks. Is that like 7 weeks? I think it's like 7 weeks. 7 or 8 weeks early, which my lungs weren't even fully developed yet. So I basically was considered, they didn't think they were going to pull me out, but they ended up pulling me out. And I took a deep, the doctors went quiet. This is what my mom told me. And I took a deep breath and everyone cheered. Afterwards, the doctor and the nurse came in. They told my mom that there's angels watching over me in the room, which is really cool. And it's definitely a miracle that I didn't die that day, because I kind of had the odds stacked against me. That's kind of the, I guess, the most interesting part about my life so far. It's kind of sad, but that's basically the most interesting part about me, is that I was pretty much thought to be born dead, but I didn't. So that's kind of cool. And that's definitely something I consider moving forward in my life, that I am extremely lucky that I didn't die that day, and I do not take that for granted. And that is something important to me. And so growing up, I was homeschooled growing up. I went to school for 2 years, kindergarten and first grade, I think. I believe that's what it was. I don't think I went to second grade. I think second grade I was homeschooled. And from homeschooled to all the way until my senior year of high school, I was homeschooled. And a lot of people are like, oh, did you like that? Did you like being homeschooled? I did. I actually enjoyed it a lot. I know a couple people who were homeschooled, though, and they hated it. They did not like it at all. But I really, really enjoyed it, because I guess here's the reason I think I enjoyed it so much, because I had a couple neighbors that were also homeschooled, so we got our homework done, and then we just went and played either on like our Wii, or I played on my friend's old Xbox. When we got a little older, it was an Xbox 360, but it was I really enjoyed it. We got to play outside all the time and just hang out, and that was really cool, because we just get our homework done and then we got to go hang out. So growing up, I lived more in like a city, suburban area, and that was in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities, and one of the suburbs I grew up in, called Appa Valley. And so then around the age of 11, we got my dad got an offer for a job up in Duluth, which is 3 hours north of the Twin Cities, Duluth, Minnesota. And everyone in my family was super, super happy. And I absolutely I was so mad. I'm like, I don't want to move because my friends, I don't want to leave my friends. And we ended up moving, and I was very mad. Not only, I'm a Christian as well. I grew up primarily Baptist evangelical. And so I was pretty mad during that time at God, and I kind of stopped caring about church for a while, because I was just mad at God. I'm like, God, why would this happen? Why would you do this to me? And I was just angry. I was very angry. And so we moved to Duluth, and I was still kind of salty. I was a little annoyed, but I ended up meeting a bunch of friends. I met my best friend, my best friend from when I was 11 until now, and we still hang out, even though I moved back to the cities way later. A little spoiler, but we still hang out. It's been 2 years since I moved back, I think. Yeah, and we're still very strong friends. I see him. Oh man, I see him pretty often now. During the school year, it's a little tougher, but yeah, anyway, I found my group of friends, and I kind of realized that there wasn't a reason for me to be there was a reason for me to be mad at God during that time, but I ended up coming back to Christ through our church, and I kind of realized that God did that so that I could grow as a person. And I guess that's kind of how life works. Obviously, life comes with challenges and stuff like that, and I thought I could blame it on something. And I feel like as humans, we try to do that a lot. Whether or not you're religious or not, you don't have to be. We always try to find stuff to blame things on, and I chose to blame God for that. And I think one of the most important things I learned out of that is we can't blame bad things to happen on things, because doing that, I feel like, kind of stunts the growth thing. It's a normal thing to blame blame your circumstances on things. But I think one of the important things to do is to just keep pushing on. And because when you blame something, like I said, it kind of stunts your, not that you can't grow after that, but it almost slows you down a little bit because you're kind of stuck in the past a little bit. And you're like, oh, I'm so angry. So yeah, whether or not you're religious or you are religious, we deal with this where we will blame things. But moving on and past that is what really counts. And that's what I had to choose to do as well. And know that my past, I can move on from my past, and that the past actually, I can use that past to grow the future, which is kind of how my podcast works, which is why I really like this podcast, using the framework of history to kind of use that not only to grow in our knowledge and of our day-to-day life and kind of learning about stuff. Like the episode previous to this, I talked about learning about samurais, and I thought that was really cool because now, if you didn't know, and there was a couple things about samurais I didn't know, and you can kind of adopt some of that stuff into your day-to-day life, even though it sounds like it's just a normal topic. Like it's samurai. Like, what? How can we learn from this? But I think you can learn from anything, and samurai was one of those things that we can take maybe the samurai code and realize that we should be more honorable and more committed to things in our life. And I think that's something, I guess, really important to me. Anyway, so yeah, I went to college. I'm still currently going to college at University of Northwestern in the Twin Cities. And I'm going for a radio and recording arts degree, and also intercultural studies degree. So I'm a double major. And I actually recently went to Asia for 2 months. And the reason I say Asia, some people will get mad when I say, oh, I went to Asia, because they're thinking I went to one place. I say that because I don't want to say the 4 countries I went to. I mean, I'll say them right now, but typically I just say that and they're like, oh, it's not all Asia. But I went to 4 different countries, so it's just easier for me to say I went to Asia for 2 months. Anyway, I went to Cambodia, Thailand, the Philippines, and Japan. And hands down, Japan was the favorite for me, because my dream from when I was probably like 10 was to go to Japan, mostly because I played in a lot of Nintendo growing up, and I just love Japanese culture, and I watched a couple shows as well. Dragon Ball was one that, oh my goodness. There's so many good shows. I love their culture. It was great. It was really cool. The reason I went there was for, like I said, my degree and kind of working with other cultures. We worked with a couple churches over there as well. That wasn't our necessarily primary focus, but because I go to a Christian university, that was one of the things we got to do, which was cool to see how different cultures interact with God, and that's really cool. But majorly, we were just experiencing other cultures, and it was really cool to see that. And I would 100% suggest traveling across seas, and you really get a perspective on how, I guess, Japan, I would say, is a little more high tech than us, but other countries like the Philippines and Cambodia, those two specifically, you really get a perspective on how majorly blessed we are to live in America. Not that those aren't, I'm not like not degrading, but I guess saying they're bad, but I'm just saying we have a lot more at our fingertips than they do. We're a lot more fortunate in that aspect. But oh my goodness, the Philippines, we debriefed in Hawaii, and the Philippines literally blew Hawaii out of the water. It is one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been to. We actually swam with sharks there, whale sharks, while we were there. And oh my gosh, the Philippines, I 100% recommend going to the Philippines. It is so beautiful. And the crazy part is we got to meet a bunch of people there as well. And we walked through some neighborhoods. We primarily went to the slums part, and it's insane. They live in just these concrete like huts, and like the housing situation is just, it's not good at all. There's trash everywhere. But the craziest thing to me about that whole thing was, I would say on average, those people were happier than most Americans I know, which is crazy because they don't have anything. But I guess that's something I took out of it, and their community was just so good, and I think that's something we can bring back to America as well, is the community aspect of it. So that's some more recent history of me, and now I am pursuing, like I said, my radio or podcasting, something with sound. I am very intrigued in sound. I love sound design. I kind of want to go for a video game sound design career, possibly in the future, which would be amazing, or maybe in the film industry. There's the word. And yeah, so I really love sound. I really love podcasting. I love this. So kind of explaining the history of me, now moving to the future of my podcast, The Framework of Tomorrow. I want to take more of a neutral standpoint on things and looking for things we can learn in situations, and not putting my political opinion into like I did episode 26 with, and maybe I don't think I did as much as I did with political unrest, but obviously the topic was political unrest, so it was kind of hard to do that, and I could have taken a much better shot at that topic, but yeah, I guess I would say if I would able to go back and do it again, I would take a much more neutral standpoint on the subject and kind of look for more things we can learn, rather than me talking about for a couple of minutes my political views on stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of what I want to talk about this episode. I really didn't really have a plan going into this episode other than talking about me, but I don't really have to prepare anything for my own story. But I really hope you learned something from this episode and kind of understood where I'm going with my podcast. So moving forward, let me just get like a concrete thing down for this. We're on episode 30. We're pretty far in here. I actually passed the episode 25 mark. I'm part of the 75% of podcasters, the 25% of podcasters who make it past the 25 episode mark, because 75 podcasters never make it past the 25 episode mark, and I am very excited to be a part of the 25% that did. So moving forward, I want to take a more neutral. I kind of want to keep politics out of it, even though sometimes it's going to be a little difficult to do that, since if we're evaluating a current topic, that can be a little difficult. But I will try as much as I can to do that. 2, I want to focus, as I have been more recently as well, I've been trying to focus more on what are we doing for the future? How are we using this topic to jump into the future and evaluate the future with the past, the framework? You know what I mean? How can we move forward? And I kind of started doing that. I can't remember if it was like 10 episodes ago. I implemented the what are we doing for the future part of my episodes, which I really want to emphasize that, because that's what I want to do. And I really just want to inform and provoke meaningful conversation. And the biggest thing for me is inform, because I personally really like learning. I love sharing knowledge with people. The pursuit of knowledge is just a big thing for me. I love learning more and more and more. And I hope you do too. And I hope that's why you listen, because I kind of want to share the knowledge that I'm learning with you. And by me taking more of a neutral position on some things, I can keep that a pretty clear slate so that everyone can begin to understand, and not only give maybe more than one way to move forward. Maybe there is only one way to move forward in some aspects, but definitely using the history of things to kind of jumpstart into the future. So I really, really, really hope you enjoyed this episode. And the random history fact of the day, it was a little bit about myself. One thing, I really enjoy playing video games in my free time. That's one of my main things. That and music. I love that. So kind of audio and video games can move together. One of my favorite video games that I've played for 6.5 years now. It's an online RPG game. It's an massively multiplayer online. Yeah, Destiny. I've played Destiny for 6.5 years now. I played in the beta back in 2014. Or it hasn't been 6.5 years. It just turned 6 years in like middle of July, I think. So it's been 6 years now. It's crazy how long I've played that game. I played it with my friends 6 years ago. I still play with those friends today. We've been playing forever. I absolutely love that game. And one of the big things I love about that game is the soundtrack and the sound design within that game. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. If you ever have a chance to play it, it's actually free to play now. It never used to be free to play, but now you can. And if you have a chance to play Destiny, oh my goodness, you'd love it. The story is so good. Mostly like the hidden lore is what really gets you, because they actually don't share a lot with the base story, but if you read into more, that's the lore that's in it. You kind of have to seek it out. But yeah, anyway, I love playing video games. Loved it ever since I was smaller. Like I said, when I played with my friends in my neighborhood, I loved it. I love it. I still love it today. And yeah, so I really hope you enjoyed this episode of me kind of talking about myself and kind of using the history of myself. It's kind of funny because I didn't set it up to be this way, but now that I'm kind of running through it, this podcast is kind of an embodiment of my life and kind of how I want to use the framework of history to evaluate how I move forward in the future, which, like I shared during this episode, I did in my turning point when I was around 11 when I had to move, and then I was mad, but then I used that to jumpstart myself into the future and kind of find my own interests. And yeah, so it's really, I really hope you enjoyed this and that you continue to enjoy this. And if you want to go follow me on Instagram at the Framework of Tomorrow, that'd be great. Send me a DM and tell me how much you enjoy my podcast or don't enjoy my podcast. If you have any critiques, that'd be great. I absolutely love that. Please make sure to go on iTunes and rate me 1 star or 5 stars. Anything. I'd love to see the interaction there. That'd be amazing. And I'll show you at the beginning of the episode if you want me to. I upload every Monday and Wednesday at 5 a.m. and make sure to have a fantastic rest of your day, and make sure to check out episode 31 on next Wednesday. Or not next Wednesday, sorry, this Wednesday, 2 days from now. You don't have to wait till next Wednesday for episode 31. 2 days from now, make sure to check that out and have a fantastic day. And make sure to tune in on Wednesday for that episode 31. Fantastic episode of the Framework of Tomorrow.